Hey guys, welcome to another episode here at bringspark.com. My guest today has a very impressive resume. He is a primetime television host, he is a business radio host, he's a global business celebrity, he's a best-selling author, he's a world-renowned speaker, he's bought and sold over 200 companies in his career, and that is just a little bit of what I can imagine this guy has done in his life, so I'm very happy that he could take the time out of his what I can only imagine is a very hectic schedule to talk to us today. Jeffrey Hayzlett, thank you very much for being here.
Hey, thanks. I'm sitting here in my office in New York City, which is a big open office environment. That's why I'm wearing the headset, that we can be able to talk, because we like everybody else to be doing business, so I can do these kinds of things while we're talking. So this is great.
That makes sense. I would have, I'd be a bit stressed out if you put everything on pause for this, like, in your office. That would not be...
Well,
So, what can you tell us about you before we dive into the things that you teach and the things that you actually do? What do we need to know about your story?
Well, the biggest thing you see is what you get. I tell people I'm from South Dakota because I am from South Dakota. I was born in Charleston, West Virginia, many, many years ago. My father was in the military, so we lived all over the country. And about every single year, I went and worked and went to a different school. And then that kind of went into my career. About every year, I went to a different job. The longest job I ever had in my career was 4 years at Eastman Kodak when I was the CMO of a Fortune 100 company. So, that's in a nutshell. I live in South Dakota. That's my real home. We call that home. And then I work and live in New York City as well. We have offices in New York, and we have some people out in LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and in Sioux Falls. And people always say, why Sioux Falls? And I always say,
I was gonna say.
I put that on the back of our website. It says, because we can.
That makes sense. So you've basically spent your entire life exploring different companies and different things to do and learning from that. Is that about right?
Yeah, a big part of it. I mean, I kind of believe in a awareness, always being a constant state of awareness. I don't know what I don't know. And so those are the key things that I kind of go at it with, a real sense of experimentation and experience of risk, because, in the end, no one's going to die from most of the stuff we do in business. So I'm always risking, always putting it on the edge, sometimes a little too far. I feel that way as an entrepreneur sometimes, where I'm out there on the edge. And, I was talking to Fran Tarkenton the other day, the former Hall of Famer from the Vikings, who's a big, huge entrepreneur, a little bit more old school these days. But, he once spoke and said, one of the best quotes I ever heard was, if you haven't laid awake at night wondering whether you're going to make payroll the next day, you haven't been in business, and so there's some of that goes on with it as well. So, so I've always been a risk taker with a lot of activities and stuff that we do.
That sounds very interesting. Now, there's a lot, I've been looking at your stuff for a while now, and there's a lot to explore, but I want to start out, on our show, we try to give people who want to get started at things, or are already starting to do things, but they're not really sure where to go, or they're scared, or they're held back for whatever reason, and we try to give them some stuff to think about, or some action steps to take, or whatever that they might need. Now, your last book is where I would love to start, because it has a very, very interesting topic. So would you tell us about the last book that you just published and a little bit about what it is about?
Yeah, I just put out a book called Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless, just out from Entrepreneur Magazine, one of their first mainstream books that they put out, and which is doing very well, like 250,000 copies sold in the first couple of weeks. And
that's very impressive.
It hit bestseller, so we're pretty excited about it. Very excited. In fact, they've already gone to a second printing. But, in that book, I talk about, they call it hard work because it's freaking hard. I mean, it's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and not everybody can do it or wants to do it. So it's only the relentless who win in the end, and that's really what it's about. And it's about getting a mindset around, no matter what happens, you've got to take these obstacles that get in your way, and you got to knock them over, get rid of them, run around them, eliminate them, shove them down someone else's throat if you have to. But you have to move those out of the way to get what you want done. And so that really focuses on what I would call conditions of satisfaction. Mm-hmm. And I talk about that in the book. And I really want to ask entrepreneurs, what are your personal conditions of satisfaction? What is it that you want? For me in my business, I have three. I want to build wealth for me and my family. That's number one. That's the most important. I'd still do what I do what I'm doing right now for free. but how we get paid, that's how we keep score. So that's,
Absolutely.
you got to pay the bills. So that's important. The second thing is I want to do things that I think are interesting, that I learn from. And the third is I want to have fun. And those are the three things that guide me. And I try never to do anything unless it's got those three things. Now, many times I can only have two of them because the wealth's not there yet. It takes a while, and it does take a while for the most part. There are a few people that get real lucky. But, what are your personal conditions of satisfaction? So as you're thinking about this, what is it you want out of it? Where do you want to go with it? How much money do you want to put in? How many paychecks do you want to go without before you're willing to say enough's enough?
Mm.
This dog ain't gonna hunt,
Right.
and to be able to put those things through. So that's probably one of the most critical things you have to do.
That sounds very interesting. There seems to be a lot of people who are afraid to put themselves out there and risk experiencing what you're talking about. Not having that next paycheck come in, or not knowing when it's going to come in, or as you said, worrying about if you're going to make payroll the next day. So let's start exploring that first, because there's a lot of people who are letting fear hold them back, or
Right.
rule their life. They stick to the little box that they're meant to be in because it's safe. But a lot of people have that desire to get out there, to do something more, to build something bigger. What would be your top advice for these people to actually break through that barrier and start doing it?
Build a bigger box. I mean, we're all working in boxes, and we all get these perceived obstacles that are abstract obstacles that come in our mind. We think we can only be the biggest business in Sioux Falls, and then we realize, ooh, I can do Minnehaha County. Ooh, I can do the state. Ooh, I can do this in Iowa.
Mm.
I can do this in throughout the United States. I can do this in Canada. I can do this worldwide, and that's what you have to do. You have to learn that there's a bigger pond. So that's the bigger thing. I mean, there's no difference between a business in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and one on Wall Street. The only difference is the numbers of zeros behind that number. That's it.
Right.
That's truly it. And I've said in meetings, where I had billions of dollars of budget, and it was no different than setting in my print shop in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 25, 30 years ago. The difference is the scale of which,
Mm.
and if you take away the zeros, it's the same kinds of decisions. So, same kinds of people putting on their pants or putting on their dress or whatever it might be. So you want to move beyond that. But the other thing is, no one's holding a gun to your head. Okay, if you want to spend more time with your family, spend more time with your family. If you want to spend more time working and doing what you do, then do it, or fun, or you want to start a business, then frickin' do it.
Mm.
But no one's putting a gun to your head saying you can't do those things, without exception. Usually it's these little voices that go off in your head. Well, I tell you, quit inviting those voices to dinner, you know, because you don't need to be listening to them. It's okay to have that conscience of, you know, am I doing the right things? But if you're going through the proper steps, if you are realistic in your goals, if you're realistic in your expectations around your conditions of satisfaction, and you know what those are, it shouldn't be that difficult of a decision, to risk a little bit.
Right. So how about the people who actually have trouble thinking big? Because I get a lot, like I work with coaching, and I work with corporations, and I work with private individuals. And a lot of times I run into people who kind of go, well, I don't really know what I want. I want something bigger. I want something better, or whatever. But and it turns out that they're just afraid to actually explore the vast
Mm.
potential that's out there. What would you say to something like that?
Quit talking to me. I don't have time to talk to you. All due respect, when you figure it out, then you come talk to me. I mean, and I'm not trying to mean that in a negative way. I just look. I have certain things I want to get done, and I don't need to surround myself with people who don't want to do the things that they want to do. And if you haven't made up your own mind, if you haven't drank the Kool-Aid first, then I can't make you drink the Kool-Aid.
Right.
That you've got to get that straight in your head. And once you get it straight in your head, and once you realize that you can live in that story, and I talk about this in the book, that you have to own the story of who you are. And once you own that story, and you can make the expectations meet the promise of what that is, and the reality meet the promise of what that is, then you've got something that really can work. Until then, you're just a dreamer. And if you want to dream about it, I found that people that dream about it dream about it. And then there's doers who make their dreams come true. And it
Mm.
means their dreams catch up. I don't always know what I want to do. I just know if I'm heading kind of in this direction, I'm going to get to a different place than I was before. And usually it's pretty good. And if it's not, I can pretty much back out of that pretty quickly and say, That was bad. Don't touch that stove. It's hot. You know,
Right.
and that's what it really has to be about. Again, what is it you want to do, and where do you want to go? If your dreams aren't to get there, then guess what? You'll never get there. If they are there, you can get there, but you have to think about what those are first, and then outline the steps in which and you know that you need to take to make that journey.
So it's important to actually be doing this not just for the money, but actually finding something that you truly desire to do, something that, that's your dream and not, because I run into a lot of people who seem to have these great business ideas, but they're not passionate about it. They just want the end result. They want the money.
Well, I tell a lot of speakers and folks that want to get into television. You know, I have my own television shows, and I tell most people, I said, it's two things. One, decide you want fame or you want fortune, because you usually don't get both. So that's one for a lot of folks. Now, and someone said, "Well, Jeff, you've got both." Well, I had the fortune first. I went for fortune, and you can use. And if you're really good at what you do, you can get the fame. All right.
Mm.
If you're real about the things you do, and you get a little lucky to some extent, but I'm relentless about it. I mean, I was up till 3 a.m. sending out emails last night about something I'm doing. So I mean, because I like to do that. I really and truly like, and two, it had to get done. So, but the key thing is I tell people you want fame or fortune. And by the way, if you have the fortune, you can usually buy the fame. That's another thing as well. But I tell a lot of folks, and when I start off the talk about, moving into this genre, if you want to be a celebrity, if you want to be someone on TV, if you want to have a best-selling book, I tell most people, I say, you won't do the things I have to do to be me, which means you won't do the steps that you need that are required to be successful at what I'm doing or what you want to do. And if you can't get behind that, then don't do it, because it's never going to happen. As you well said, they like the idea of what that is, but yet don't want to do the things to get there. Well, then that's just a waste of everybody's time, isn't it?
Absolutely. So think big, act bigger. What does that mean?
Well, it just means getting shit done. Okay. I have got pages and pages in the book of excuses of why people can't do things, because I hear them all the time. I can't do that. We can't activate that social media post because Tuesday's the best day to activate on Facebook and it's Wednesday. Give me a frickin' break. What are you talking about? So maybe it is. Well, no one's going to die. Do it on Wednesday. Maybe it would have been better on Tuesday, but it's Wednesday. So get over it, whatever the day is. Or, we don't have the budget for that, or we tried that once before. I get so sick and tired of all these things. So it's about saying, look, we said we're going to take the hill. We said we're going to deliver a certain profitability, a certain level of growth, a certain number of customers, a certain level of customer satisfaction. Whatever the goal is, that's what we're doing. I didn't see us renegotiating and saying we're not going to do it. We said we're going to do it, and once we say we're going to do it, then I don't need any freaking excuses. You want to come back and renegotiate the promise, that's different. But in the end, we're still taking the hill, so we're going to take the hill, and that's really the key for a lot of people, is putting that stake in the ground around those mutual conditions of satisfaction, of saying this is what we're going to do it, and then don't accept anything less than just getting it done.
Right. So it's about commitment to your end goal, or commitment to your promises to, yourself, your colleagues, your customers, or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your people too. I mean, look, one of the things you can grow very fast in the business. There have been times in the business where I can't take a paycheck. There are times in the business where I can't take a vacation or can't do the certain things I'd like to do because an employee left or someone got sick. Well, in the end, I'm ultimately the one holding that promise, so I've got to make that happen, no
Mm.
matter what occurs. So if we're running short on cash because we're growing too much and I can't tap credit lines or whatever it might be, I mean, these are all things that come up in business all the time. Then personally, then I've got to be able to do that, or I got to write personal guarantees to back the business. I mean, those are things that you have to do when you're a small business guy.
Right. So I imagine that this is a very, very important topic for, the people just starting out, the entrepreneurs that have started their companies, or maybe in the first growth phase, or they're establishing, a client base or whatever it is. I imagine that commitment to your promise to your customers, or your clients is one of the top things they need to focus on. What else is there? What should the people just starting out be working on to make sure they have the best chance of success?
Well, you're going to go through basically as an entrepreneur 3 steps in your business, and every business goes through these steps. First of all, you start off as a one-man band. I mean, that's really where you get started. It's you, and that's you. And then you start adding devout followers, and you add a bunch of people who might not be right for the job, but man, they're with you. It's your cousins, your sister, your mother, your wife, whoever it might be, and you bring them on because they're standing there at the time, and they might love what you're doing or so forth. And then you go to that third phase, and that's the really tough phase for a lot of business owners. First of all, is to find the second phase, to find the people that you can trust or want to have part of it, that feel the same way you do, and yet they might not have the skills. I want to be clear about that. They might not yet have the skills. And the third one is adding those skilled technicians, the professionals. And I think it's important for you to be thinking about the journey that you're going to go through, and understand that, the person that's with you here might not be the person for you here.
Mm.
And customers that were for you in these stages might not be the customers for you in the end. So you need to be thinking about, what do I need to be looking for? How do I need to be altering it, changing it, and be ready for it, to be adaptive? Because you really have 3 choices for you: change, adapt, or die. And that's what you really want to be thinking about in your business, is what can I be doing to change and adapt so that I don't die?
Mm. That's very interesting. Now, a lot of people that I've seen start businesses, they have a big problem, pulling the trigger on that third step of actually hiring the skilled people. Because first of all, hiring someone is scary. It's difficult to get the right people, and this is usually where I see people start thinking about all this, can I really afford it? Shouldn't I, or they go, well, now I'm making good money. I want to keep this money for myself. I don't want to start spending it on paychecks. And they kind of stop their own growth right there. Is that something that,
Well, then get back to what your definition is. Do you want to be a high growth company? You want to be a cash business? Do you want to be a lifestyle business? I mean, those are things you want to think through, and each of those has different, implications in terms of what you want to do. But if you're going to scale, you're going to need people. You're going to need to invest. You're going to need to change. You're going to need to sacrifice. I found that no matter what you do in life, I mean, if you teeter-totter or seesaw, when you push on one side, something's got to give on the other, and you push on the other side, something's got to give over here. You know what? That's life. That's the way it works. And so you're going to have to do that if you want the other thing. If you don't want the other thing, then keep the cash, stay home, watch TV, and and enjoy your small little business. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's be clear. And because I tell people this, and I think this is a great thing to remember, TJ, no matter, people will say you need to do this, or you need to do this, and you need to do this. Well, okay, great. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. That's the cool thing about this.
I'm very happy you said that.
Yeah, in the free enterprise system, you can do it any way you want to do. Now, it doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's going to help you scale or not scale. It just means it's going to be yours. That's the key. And so, there are a lot of times when people come to me and say, Jeff, why don't you go do a daily talk show? Why don't you go do this? I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to do that stuff. I want to do what I want to do. Could I make more money? Like a lot of times people say, well, you got these best-selling books, you got a TV show, why don't you sell some courses? On the stuff that you're giving away for free on these interviews. Why don't you teach a course? And, I don't want to do that. I like this. I like having this discussion. I like helping people. Now, could I do that? Yeah, I could do that. See, again, do what you want to do the way you want to do it. And if anybody says you should do it this way, that way, nah. Even the advice I'm giving, do it your way. I'm just giving you some advice of, this is what I've seen, this is what I observe, it's right for me, it's what I think, you should be looking at doing, and ways to overcome it. I come from a place where most people only know is a spot on a map. Yet, I've bought and sold over 250 businesses, 25 billion in transaction. I've been a Fortune 100 officer. I've hosted my own primetime TV show. Well, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not the smartest guy, and I'm not the best looking guy. I'm still pretty good looking, but I'm not the best looking guy.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very important point, and I'm happy you brought that up, because to me, that's also part of the reason why we have BringSpark, is to give people the inspiration to actually follow, the life that they want to follow. But a lot of people are scared. They don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the inspiration, or they just don't feel like it's possible for them. But as you said, it doesn't matter where you're from or your background, as long as you're willing to do what needs to be done to get there.
Exactly. I mean, I look. I came from a very blue collar background, and a lot of people had a lot more incentives, step ups than I did, education than I did. But that doesn't mean I can't do the same things they did, or I just might be a little slower at it. Sometimes I might be a little faster at it. Sometimes I might be better at it. It just, don't let those little voices in your head limit you. So if you want to do it, do it. And that's the biggest thing I think in my book, Think Big, Act Bigger. I don't care if it's for your business or for your personal life. If you, again, you want to spend more time with your kids, no one's stopping you. All
Mm.
right. It means you got to make changes. You might means you can't work another shift. You can't work the weekends. You can't work, and that's going to hurt your business. Well, okay, but you
So it's
can,
about prioritizing.
yeah, but you can do that.
Yeah.
So it's about what is your conditions of satisfaction. You just got to make those decisions. It's just very clear. It doesn't mean it's right, and it's different for every single person. So, but you got to get it in your head that this is what's the priority for you.
Mm. So let's talk about risk for a moment, because a lot of this comes down to whether people are willing or not to take the risk that they need to in order to create the life that they want. Some people seem a lot more eager to take risk, while other people are scared of it. So why do you think there's a difference between people, such a big difference between people on this field?
Well, part of it's just how we're wired. I mean, so sometimes you can actually see it really early with children. I mean, where a baby is almost afraid to have somebody else pick it up other than its mother. I mean, it's just wired, immediately wired into you one way or the other. Now you can overcome these things with socialization, getting used to people, and so there's lots of different ways to do that. So so if you want to avoid risk, just take a little bit of risk at a time,
Mm.
and then you get more comfortable with it. So it's still taking risk. So just take a little bit, unless you don't want any risk. Well, then go get a 9 to 5 job or work for somebody else, and that's okay too. And God bless you for that. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be in business, you're going to take risk. No doubt about it. You just need to decide at what levels you want. And by the way, big risk for me is different than big risk for you. Little risk for me is different than little risk for you. And just like your own goals and dreams and hopes or aspirations, they're just different. And again, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just different. So if you're adverse to risk, then just take a little bit at a time and I call it crawl, walk, run.
Okay.
And which is a great way of being able to look at it.
Absolutely. So let's go back to something you said at the very beginning. You talked about actually putting in the work, because it's you gotta do that, because there's a lot of people hoping for that overnight success. They want to create the app that makes them a billionaire or whatever it is they want to
Don't
do.
we all want that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but that's not the way it works in your experience. Is that
No, it never works that way. I mean, are there some people that do that? Yeah, they're absolutely lucky. Can people get extremely lucky, like the guys at Uber? Yeah, they got drunk one night in Paris and decided that they couldn't get a cab at 4 o'clock in the morning, so they came up with the idea to come up with this app that's unbelievably huge, right? And so forth and so on. I mean, there's lots of those kinds of things, but yet they're in the end they're solving problems, and the more pain and problems you solve, the more value that there is with that. But in the end, it's always hard work. If you think that the guys at Uber or the guys at Amazon, the guys at wherever, Microsoft, let's go all the way back to that, or Steve Jobs, didn't work hard, you're nuts. They worked hard, and they're still working hard. And because it's in their nature of who they are. Just like, when I retire, I'm still going to be working hard, just doing different things, right? That's in essence of who you are. So again, it's called hard work because it's hard, and
mm,
that's what it's supposed to be. And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
there you
You
go.
know,
So my question to that is, because there's a lot of people who are out there saying that you've got the whole movement of people who basically want to sit on their couch and make millions of dollars doing pretty much nothing. And there's a bit of a culture around that now that seems to be going spreading throughout the world. But at the same time, I'm reading articles at Forbes or whatever saying that Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, they're working 24 hours a day, and that's their life is in this. So why do you think there's such a split now between what the people who are truly successful seem to be doing and what people think they can do? and still make the same kind of money.
Well, there's those that are doing it and those that just think they can do it. That's the difference. I mean, in essence, when you find out it's not a glamorous thing. It's not an easy thing. It's a very hard thing. It requires skills. It requires capital. It requires know-how. It requires passion. But, passion alone is not going to carry you through. I mean, it requires profit. And those are the little pieces that you have to put together that make up the whole, which is a solution for success. And it's never just one thing or two things. It's lots of many things, but the core piece of all that is good hard work.
Mm.
That's the core piece. And I call it being relentless. And by being relentless at what you do, being relentless at the quality, being relentless at the high growth, being relentless at finding more customers, being relentless at a servant mentality, being relentless at just being nice, being relentless at being aggressive, being relentless at being thoughtful. All the things that you have to do, not just one. You have to have all those things as a great leader, but it's being the relentlessness that pays off. And I've never found anything else other than being relentless.
So this is why people talk about how important it is to be passionate about what you do if you want to be successful. Because I just know with myself that if I'm passionate about something, I just won't stop doing it because it's something that's that important to me. While a lot of and I like the way you're putting this because a lot of the articles and stuff I read about it, it's just be passionate and things will work out. So
No,
you're saying you got to be passionate, but you got to go out there
No,
and
but be smart. You can be passionate about it and start listening to, how great you are, and it's only coming from your mother. If it's only coming from your mother and your father, well, chances are it's probably not going to be the best business yet. So you have to be grounded. So it's great to be passionate, but also to be grounded. Again, step back. What are the conditions of satisfaction? Look, I tried to corner the market on pheasants years ago. I love pheasants. I love to run around, watch them, hunt them down, and kill them. But at the same time, I was trying to grow a pheasant farm, and I lost my ass. I mean, I tried to corner the market on pheasants till I realized there wasn't one. Okay, so and you can get extremely passionate about certain things and find out there's no market there. I've done this 100 times, a million times probably, where I think, oh, this is a great idea, and then oh no, it's not such a great idea. Oh my gosh. But again, set the conditions of satisfaction. What is it I want to do? Set a test, set a sales, a number, set a check-in period. Ask somebody besides your parents and relatives and the angel funders that are going to give you money because they just believe in Scotty or believe in Jimmy or believe in Susie and they're going to give you the money to do it. No, beyond that, find real people that want to, really invest in or whatever those little tests are that you need to have.
right. So it's about doing thorough research on your passion before actually, risking everything to make it happen.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying in marketing, will the dog eat the dog food? You can make the greatest dog food in the world, and the dog doesn't eat it. What the hell is the use of that? So the key thing is, will the dog eat the dog food? So what defines that? Is it a certain number of sales? Is it a certain level of profitability? Is it a certain market penetration? Is it a certain lifestyle? All those things, again, all around the condition of satisfaction. So when I launch a new product, and I've launched many, many products over life, we sit down and say, what's the goal? What is it we want to get done with this product? And if we're not hitting certain goals, dollar wise or time wise, we got to pull the plug.
Hmm.
And no emotion about it. That's just what you have to do. It's tough sometimes for us though, when you're sitting in that chair, and you know this all too well, to separate that emotion from it, because people say, oh, it's only business. It's not business, it's personal. And
Hmm.
don't you ever forget it. It's always got some personal tied to it. And people who say it's only business, it's not only business, it's personal.
Yeah, especially when you're the one creating this. I mean, it's a part of you, and a lot of people have trouble letting go. Like you're
Well,
saying, just that
well,
walking away part can be hard for a lot of people.
yeah, but when you're hiring people and you've got people's lives depend on you, and whether it's 8 people or it's 80,000, you know, and you have to lay people off, or you have to change the way in which you do things, or you have to say, hey, I love you, but you're just not cutting it here for us. There's all those things have to weigh into the equation,
Hmm.
and that's personal. That's not it's business, certainly, without question, but
Hmm.
there's a personal side to it, and you need to understand that as well.
Absolutely. And I imagine on the flip side, when you're actually able to create something for these people and have a team that's working with you on something that turns out to be a great success, I mean, that's got to be intensely personal as well, both for your own, feeling about your product, but also all the people around you.
Well, and the emotions and everything that you can pull together and how you build a team. I mean,
Mm.
again, remember those steps, one man band, then you got some devout followers who are sharing it with you. And, they share and all that. And then to take it to the next level to where people are driving the goal that you want to see accomplished and how you get that done. It's a big part of it. Yeah.
That's perfect. So, is there anything you want to leave the people watching this, the people who want to take those steps, the people who want to create something, get out of their 9 to 5, do something different? What would you leave them with?
I probably two things, and one of it is around focus, about what you have to do to focus, and you need to be very focused because it's very difficult when you get started because there's this and there's this and this. Find the things, no more than 5 or 6 things, and even in my book, the Think Big, Act Bigger, I actually put a triangle in there, and most people put a triangle like this with the most important things at the top and the least. Well, I invert it and I make that my time triangle. And I put the base of it, the things I should be spending the most time on with the highest priorities, that's where I put up at the very time. So it's a visual reminder to me, I got to spend more time on these things. And rather than that's my least and that's the base, I'm going to flip it around. So focus. But in there, let me leave you with this lesson that's from the book, Think Big, Act Bigger. And that's killing squirrels. You need to kill squirrels. They're evil little creatures. And what I mean by that, in the movie Up, there's this animated character, Ed Asner character, old man and a young boy who was a scout. And they go to Paradise Falls inadvertently. And they run into Doug the talking dog. Now, Doug has been outfitted with a collar that his master has given him. And Doug, when he runs up to you, goes, "Hi, I'm Doug the talking dog." And you can hear Doug talk. And he goes, "I think you're very nice. I really like you." And then I go, "Squirrel." And he gets distracted.
Right.
And that's what I mean by killing squirrels. It's very important for us, and it's hard for me. It's, all of a sudden I'm on Facebook, and 2 hours later, what the heck have I done?
Yeah.
Or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, rather than focus in on those things that are written in that triangle, those things that are written into my key focus things that I need to get done. Focus, focus, focus. That's kill those squirrels and keep focus on what you have to do to drive those conditions of satisfaction, because the stuff you do early on develops your skill levels for what you do later and how you're going to continue to run your business.
Hmm. That is very good advice. So hopefully the guys and girls watching this will take this to heart because, yeah, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of squirrels in our day-to-day lives now with,
Every day, and you must kill them.
Sounds perfect. All right, where can people go to get a copy of your book or your books? Because you have more
Yeah, we have
one.
3 books. I'm watching a resurgence in the other 2 books. The Mirror Test was my very first book in 2010, and then 2013 was Running the Gauntlet, and now here we are, 2015, with Think Big, Act Bigger. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. In fact, if you buy a brand new Nook, the Samsung Galaxy T2, you can get a free copy of my book along with 3 other books as well that they're doing at Barnes & Noble. It's in the airports. It's in your local bookstore. Don't forget your local bookstores wherever possible. Love to take care of those, but so many people are buying e-books these days, more and more copies of e-books than we've ever seen in the last 2 books combined, but we're very happy. But you can find it there. And then let me tell you one other thing, launch.thinkbigtour.com, launch.thinkbigtour.com. We're giving away a big trip to New York City where you get to go on a plane, first class, pick you up at the airport in a helicopter, bring you into the city, take you to dinner, night out in the town, some scotch, some wine, some cigars, some chocolates, a really swell trip. So think about that as well.
Very cool. We'll link up to that under this video. So for anyone watching right now, just click on that link and you'll be on that site. We'll also link to your website and people can get your books. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. I had a great time. I've got a bunch of new ideas now, so I got to sit down and do some work on my own business after this. I hope the people watching this did as well. So yeah, thank you a lot.
Thank you, and don't forget, think big, act bigger.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks.